Welcome everybody to another episode of Me and ADHD. Today's guest is Shah Crawford, and Shah is the Burnout Coach, specializing in coaching and helping supporting people who are going through burnout. So welcome, Shah. How are you doing today?
Really good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you very much. Now, you're on the show, and you are as I've explained before, you are a burnout coach.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about Shah, and being a burnout coach.
Yes, so I'm Shah. You can also call me Charlotte. I currently work as a burnout coach. It's something that I'm really passionate about. Since my diagnosis a couple of years ago, finding out that I am autistic was a shock, but not a shock at the same time. So that's something that I ended up becoming a little bit obsessed with, as we do. Did tons and tons of research. And, it's become a bit of a passion of mine. And, you know, before diagnosis, constantly walking around in the world thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I do all these simple things? Why am I exhausted all the time? Because I was completely burnt out. I couldn't do anything and I was getting worse and worse. To finding out, why I am the way that I am, having the answers that I want. And now I feel like I'm thriving a bit.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, the questions that you're asking yourself, I'm burnt out. You're struggling and you don't know why. That's very typical questions that a lot of people ask themselves. And like you said, very much like myself as well. When you get the answers, it can make such a difference.
Yeah, it really does. And, you kind of walk through life just constantly attacking yourself, really, because you think that you're the problem,
Yeah,
but actually it's that the world isn't catered for you and you have no answer as to why you can't fit in this world that is just so difficult to us, but seems like easy for everyone else around us. That's the one thing that I always struggled with.
yeah. Why does everyone find it so easy to do?
Yeah,
And there's just some of the things that they do, which they find easy to do, like look easy to me to do, but are so not easy. It's just really impossible to do, or really struggle with doing it.
yeah, the simple things. And
Yeah,
you're like, am I lazy? Is it just that I'm not doing it the right way? So many questions. But then figuring out, that your brain actually sees all these steps that other people just do automatically. Our
yeah,
brain will go through all of the steps in such detail that it becomes so overwhelming for us to even consider
yeah.
doing.
And that being overwhelmed, um, is like all encompassing as well. It's just not like a bit anxious or a bit, nervous or anything. It's just all encompassing. It can stop you from doing so much.
Absolutely. And, I think back to when I was a child, and this is sort of primary school I'm speaking. So, you know, I was constantly getting real bad stomach pains. Um, when I went to a doctor's, they sort of said, "Oh, your daughter's getting stomach migraines. She's a very anxious child." I don't feel that autism or ADHD or any of that was ever really considered in girls around that time. And so all of the signs that I was showing were missed or diagnosed as something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sadly, it's still the case right now, and it's even though there are answers there is a route you can take and things like that. It's still never the first port of call. It's just still something that's not thought of at the beginning. It's always a last resort when nothing else works.
There's that, and also, I think with girls and some boys as well, masking at an early age, you'd be surprised how early children can mask
Yeah.
and copy.
Yeah.
That's part of, and noticing that people were treating you a little bit differently, your peers, etc. Or you might be questioning certain things like, oh, why don't I understand this? I remember in preschool, can't remember how old I would have been, but I remember it was always a nightmare for my mum to get me there, constantly screaming and crying. Hated it. I was lucky enough that I had my sister with me. I'm a twin, non-identical,
Okay.
but um, she was there, and I think I found life a little bit easier knowing that she was there. She was like a security
Yeah.
blanket. But I remember there was like this boy playing in the sand, and he had like a green and black t-shirt on. I mean, this is how vivid my memory can be as well. And he had a bowl cut, and he was like a blondish, dirty blonde color. And I remember he was playing like with the sand, and I was thinking, why is he doing it that way? Why is he not doing it in like a line? Because I was thinking if I was playing with that, I'd want it in like a line and height order, because he was using different size buckets as well.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that is just so weird. And like as I grew older, I was thinking, oh my God, I actually can't seem to have fun in the sense that other people have fun. It felt so alienating.
Oh yeah, I guess, yeah. Because I think for a lot of people, fun is disorganized. It's it's random, spur of the moment, see how it goes kind of thing. But for a lot of neurodivergence, it's you need to know what's going on. You need order.
Yeah.
You need a kind of a route to follow, or something like say put things in a line or something rather than
Yeah.
chaos, so to speak.
I mean, kids probably thought I was really bossy, but even when we played imaginary play, I'd be like, right, this is what we're going to do before getting involved in this imaginary play. It was never spontaneous. It was always, right, so this is going to be the start, this is going to be the middle, and this is going to be the end. So I knew exactly what was going to happen. And a lot of the time, I'd get sort of like my friends in the playground to like repeat it, that one sequence, like in the week we'd be doing the same thing again and again. And if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is.
Oh, bless. So how old were you then when you started to realize that there were differences? Was that quite young?
Oh, good question. Yeah, really young. I'd probably say in primary school was the main one. Obviously, recall certain things from preschool, but primary school is probably where I noticed that I would be obsessed with things and other people weren't, and I couldn't understand why.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, I've always loved The Little Mermaid. One of the many reasons my hair is red, or should be red. It's not red anymore. It needs a dye again. Love The Little Mermaid. I don't think I'm ever gonna not love her. I relate to her in so many ways. She wants to be part of the human world. I never felt part of the human world. So it's so relatable. And I remember, in probably receptions, that's like the first class in primary school. I always used to, there was like a little house in the corner, and I always used to like go and sit in it while everyone else was playing. And I used to just sit in there and like sort of play with like whatever toys they had out and just like look at them. It wasn't that I wasn't interactive, because I'm quite a sociable creature, which is ironic considering that I'm autistic.
Yeah.
But I love socializing. I just miss a lot of things, and so get myself into a lot of trouble.
So like the social cues and things like that, and deeper understanding of what's
Yeah,
going
I
on.
find. Yeah, it's like sometimes I sort of think, people say that I miss social cues. I don't necessarily think it's that I miss social cues. I think it's that I see the things that other people don't see. So, you know, it's like I can sort of read into someone, how someone is truly feeling, and what
Yeah.
I suppose their true intentions are, as opposed to what they're wanting to be perceived. And that can be really difficult, because then I have the inner conflict of, oh, but they're saying this. And the literal side of my brain is like, oh, well, they're saying this, so they must be telling the truth. Because whenever I say things, I'm always telling the truth in what I
Right.
believe the truth is. So it can get a bit complicated there. And I suppose the not lying is something that I get myself in a lot of trouble with, because I find it very difficult to sort of sugarcoat.
Well, I guess if you're not used to sugarcoating, it's not been a part of your life. It's
Never.
hard to then do it comfortably. And when
Yeah, and to be fair, my family's never made me feel bad for being that way, which is kind of great. They kind of, oh well, that's how she is. And so I've kind of been encouraged, I guess, in that way to just be myself. Um, in other ways, I've sort of not been encouraged to be myself, but in that way, that was kind of helpful. But at the same time, it's nice because the people that do stick around, you know that they just love you for you
yes,
rather than anything else, which is great.
that's key. That's a big thing to remember. The ones that are still, yeah, the ones that
Absolutely.
are still there, they're there because of you.
Exactly. And that's so wonderful, I think. You know, I've got a friend from primary school that we've been friends since probably the first day. And, we're still really good friends. And yes, I was saying it was really wonderful with like my friend.
Yeah, it's. I've spoken to a lot of sort of neurotypical people and neurodiverse people about the sort of friendships and everything. And also, neurotypical mainly find it okay to make friends, and it's like a choice if they have a big circle of friends or a small circle of friends. And most of the neuro diverse sort of people that I spoke to, very much like myself, struggle to make friends, struggle to keep friends.
Mm,
And right now, I mean, there's lots of people I talk to, mainly online, an odd message every now and again to catch up after like a year or two, whatever, or something, the whole Facebook usual. Um, but my circle is my wife, my child, my mum and dad. You know, that's it.
yeah.
I don't go anywhere. If I go out, I'll go out with my wife. The only other thing that I do apart from shopping is is I'll photography. I go out with my camera, and that's mainly quite an independent thing. So you normally on your own anyway. So there isn't that
Yeah.
circle, and like you've had support, and I'm so lucky I've had support because I feel that I would have been absolutely lost um, without my mum and dad being who they are, and without my wife being who she is. Previous
Yeah.
relationships, yeah, not so good. Um, but my wife absolutely understands me and never asked me to change. I am who I am,
I
and
love
that's
that.
brilliant. I owe,
That
yeah, I mean,
really
I
is.
owe pretty much every smile I make every day to my wife. Um, no, it's great. It is great, and I know I'm lucky. Myself being, ADHD, non-attentive type from a child, I haven't known a difference in that respect, apart from I can't concentrate. So schoolwork was just awful. I cannot concentrate.
Mm,
Um, so that I realized, but other things I mean, there's a lot of other things going on in my life at the time as well. I had a lot of bullying and things like that. So that was kind of like center stage.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of people out there who don't have that support, and I can't even imagine how badly they struggled to get through things.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I think, I would say I'm more extroverted, which, I think a lot of people think of autistic individuals and sort of say, oh, they're introverted. Not all of us are, some of us really long and love that connection. What I'd probably say is meeting people isn't hard for me because of being extroverted. It's the maintaining that I find the most difficult. So I have a bit of like, if something isn't there in front of me, I will forget that it exists. So, I've had to build into my routine, right, on this day, you're going to message your friends so that you're still making sure you're being
Yeah,
connected with them. Otherwise, I will forget that they exist. And I have to have it in my calendar as a pop-up, because otherwise I will just forget to message. It's just how I am. One way that I like to stay connected is, I suppose, I love just sitting on Instagram and seeing people living their lives, and I love like writing, sort of saying, "Oh, this looks great," and that's kind of a way that I stay connected. Or watching TikToks or reels, and I'm like, "Oh, this sounds so much like my friend," and I'll like send it to them. And I mean, my friends kind of joke to me. They're like, "You send so many," and I'm like, "I know, but this is my way of telling you that I love you and I miss you."
And it won't stop.
Because it it won't stop. They don't even have to reply; they'll still get it. I don't really care, um, but they just know that I'm like that. And I suppose in when I think about secondary school, I was quite a social butterfly, but I never really felt like I had connections. I could, I guess, speak to anyone because I would just copy everyone's
to,
behavior, and I'd
to,
be
to,
them. I'd be a
to
mirror of
fit
them.
in.
And like meets like, people like themselves. So that was easy to just be another person and copy what they're doing, saying, their tone. And so I didn't find that difficult. What I found difficult was maintaining friendships. I've lost a lot of friendships throughout time because, I've either done something that wasn't, I guess, socially appropriate, and I've not always realized, or I've got myself into conflicts and not always understood why I've got myself into a conflict, or how. And then you get people sort of saying, "Oh, but you know what you did." And it's like, no, no, I actually don't have a clue. Please help me. And they don't ever explain. And I wish they did, because, one thing I've found with like the neurodiverse community, if someone does something wrong, you'll be like, "Oh, I'm not really happy with this because blah, 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 blah." And we
Yeah.
explain, and then we read it and we're like, oh, okay, they've got a good point. Oh, thank you. And so the communication is just so much better because it's clear, it's direct, it's just true and to the point. And I've always struggled with that, I suppose, in the neurotypical world. Not that I don't get along with neurotypicals, I can mask and mirror very well. I might just be masking and mirroring and actually having no idea what they're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. That's my world. That is literally my world.
I'll be like, yeah, 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 I understand.
This
What
is
are
it.
you talking about? And if I question it, they're like, and if I sort of say, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" They then think I'm starting an argument, when actually not. I'm like, "No, please just explain. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're going on about."
I'm agreeing, but I don't know what it's about.
Always. Yeah, that's always been probably a struggle with communication, for
Yeah,
sure.
I found with my communication, it's very, I think it's very stereotypical regarding ADHD. I don't know how it relates to you being autistic, but when I hear things, when I need to take in information, and you're telling me something, bullet points, short sentences, brilliant. That works for me. Don't ramble on for
Yeah.
like 20 minutes, half an hour, telling me, explaining me stuff, because my mind's going to be going in and out, in and out, in and out, and I'm not going to have a clue. Whereas when I explain something, I can go on a bit, and I'm not a fast talker. So, I mean, I bore myself when I'm talking. So I can imagine how other people's, are going through when I'm trying to explain something. It's taking me 5, 10 minutes, like, you know. But it's like somehow I just can't shorten the sentences down. But I need someone to do
Mm.
that to me. I need someone to give me short sentences, just bullet points, so I can understand and take in the information. But I struggle to do that back.
Yeah, I read somewhere and someone said, being ADHD is like being a walking
Yeah.
paradox. And it's so
It is,
true.
it's strange, so strange. It's a weird concept. There's so many things, there's a whole contradictions going on. We're one way, but we need another way. Um, so
Mm.
it's, yeah, it is. It's weird.
It's so our minds are incredible. I think it's a wonderful thing, really. You know, wouldn't it be so boring if the world, everyone was just exactly the
Oh, very
same?
true.
I always say that because I just think, oh, that would be so boring.
Yeah, I think I'm learning as I go along with the neurodiverse world. Um, so I was diagnosed last year, and it wasn't really on the radar for me beforehand. So all this is new, and I'm constantly researching and figuring out where I am and what part of me is ADHD. I've come to terms with I'm all ADHD. You know, there's not, one part of me and another part of me. I'm all ADHD, but what is ADHD? So if I'm tired at a certain, I mean, I'm tired today, but I know why I'm tired today because I not a lot of sleep last night, and it wasn't my fault. Um, children. Um, so it's things like that. I try and always try and write, okay, I'm really fatigued today, but is it because I've done a long week at work? Is it because I've been speaking to a lot of people? Is it because I've been doing a lot of tidying up or stress at home? Or, I'm always trying to figure it out, find out where the ADHD fits in. And to be honest with you, now
Mm.
it fits in a lot of places. You know, there's a lot, not every single place.
I
Yeah,
mean, you are. I always say to people, like, you are your ADHD, you are your autism, or, being autistic. That is you, every part of you. I've had so many people sort of say to me, oh, you can't make it your identity.
it's,
But it is. This is me. This is my brain. This is my brain controlling everything that I do, the way that I think, the way that I see things, the way that I feel things. It affects all of my senses. It affects, my nervous system. That's why burnout happens, because we're taking in so much. Our brains are just taking in so much information that neurotypicals just take for granted, I guess. Um, so we get exhausted so
yeah,
easy.
yeah. I mean, I guess I was one of those people. Um, for a while at the beginning of my journey, it's like, okay, so this is my ADHD side, and this is my neurotypical side, and that's kind of like how I thought. But the more I looked at things, the more I challenged how I was thinking, which is not easy to challenge myself how I'm thinking, because I'm just, what I think is what I think. But yeah, ADHD, it affects your oh, it's gone now. It affects your This is one of my ADHD things. When I get anxious and all that, I forget words. Your thinking, your ability to take information, remember.
Recall
Yep, yep. Your
information.
I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, it's this is it.
Well, it might come back in like
Yes,
five
yeah, or next
minutes.
week or something. Yeah. So, so that's that part of your brain is affected by the ADHD, but that's not part of your brain gives you the whole of your personality. So
Mm,
it has to be all of me. That's my personality is me. So my personality is ADHD. So
yeah,
executive function. Ah, I feel better now. Executive function.
executive. Yeah,
So
executive functioning. Yep.
so yeah, I agree. I all ADHD. You're autistic. I am all ADHD. That's how it is.
And it's wonderful.
How do you feel? You saying how it's wonderful. How do you feel? And I know this is, I don't know, not everyone's going to agree with me, obviously, which is fine. And I think it's a very personal thing. For you, you sound very
Mm,
positive about everything you're going through and where you are now. How
mm.
do you do you find it or feel that is a superpower, as I see written in lots of places? ADHD is your superpower. Da, 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 da. How do you feel about that?
Mm. I'm always in a 50-50 about it, because it really depends on how you're feeling on the day, you know? some days I feel on top of the world, and yeah, I do feel like it's my superpower to be me and have my mind. But when I look back at all the things that I've actually been through, having to take time off of school because of burnout and having to have my mum like look after me and help me with like basic tasks like having a bath and things like that. And then, when I was 22 and I had got myself so burnt out and worked up and stressed over existing in life that I sort of my brain shut down and I had like a really, really tough migraine that affected the right side of my body and I had to learn to walk again.
Wow.
When I think of how it's affected me in that sense, no, it's not a superpower. It's traumatic and it was horrible. Another way that I try and look at it, just sort of feel it makes me feel better about it. And because I feel that, I'm happy with who I am today. Had that not happened, would I be who I am today? Would I be feeling how I feel today? No. Would I be taking life for granted? Probably. So in a way, it's a blessing in that sense. I wouldn't want to go through all of that again, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So, you know, and then when I have days where, working, I've worked in finance for several years, and I can come up with a lot of like ideas that other people just don't consider, and I see a lot of things that other people don't. Yeah, it does feel like a superpower because it's like, oh, I can do all of this. Um, creating plans. I'm very good at planning and things like that. But then as soon as the executive functioning like starts to fall down, I can't do any of that. So it's like you're either all or
Yeah.
nothing. And that's how our brains work as well. We are all or nothing. We are yes or no. We are black or white. And that's how it feels with our bodies as well. We either have good days or bad. There's not ever really an in between.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the same for you. I never really have a day where I'm like, this is an in between day. This is what I'd imagine, normal. Mine's either good or bad.
I think I'm still learning. I'm still finding out information about myself. I don't feel like I'm learning who I am all over again. I'm just trying to work out what everything means.
Yeah,
So I take medication for the ADHD, and before that, I was on antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs because that's your typical pre-diagnosis yeah,
diagnosis.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of like helped a teeny little bit, but not that much. When I went and I just felt depressed. I felt horrible most days. Nothing was ever
Mm.
good until I met my wife. And I'll tell you a little story. She's probably going to hate me for telling this now, but yeah,
Tough.
you got to do it. This is my show, um, with 3 viewers, so it's okay. Um, I've always been really glad of getting away from people. Not because I don't like the people, it's because I find it exhausting talking and listening to people. And so fatigued, I just want to come away. I really need my own time. I need my own space to be able to calm my head down. And I met my wife, and I remember one time we spoke, and she said, "Oh, she's coming over." I'm like, oh, in my head, oh, I don't. I just need to lie down. I've been at work, and I just need to lie down. I need to clear my head. And this is probably the first time she came over, the second time she came over, and I just didn't want it. I opened up the door to her, and as soon as I saw her, it was like, come in. I felt so much better. She's the first
Okay.
person and still the only
Mm.
person that I could be with all day and not want to get away from. Um,
Oh, that's really wonderful. It's sometimes I see it as like they're your people. I think I've been lucky in the sense that my friends, looking at a lot of my friends, they're probably neurodivergent. Um, one of the groups that I'm in definitely are. I just know. It's like we have a radar. Um, And when I'm around them, I just feel they give me energy. You know, like if I go to, say, a function or something, and like a wedding, for example,
Yeah.
find them exhausting. Find them so exhausting because you're having to talk to people, and a lot of it's small talk, and I can't bear small talk. I just want to know your deepest, darkest secrets. I want to know your big dreams. I want to know all of that. So I struggle in that sense. But when I'm around my people that I can literally stim around, I can be my weird, wild self. You know, we joke that I'm sometimes a little cringe, and I love it. I don't care that I'm cringe. I'm going to be cringe if I want to be cringe. And they love me for me. We went to Spain, me and my friend group, and I love mermaids. Um, so we were all pretending to be mermaids, and we used to watch H2O, the mermaid show, and we were just going around going, "Oh, Cleo," sort of speaking all like in Australian, like they do in the show. And people must have looked at us. We were sort of like 25, 26-year-olds pretending to be mermaids. People must have looked at us thinking, what the hell are they doing? They are grown adults. We were living our absolute best life. And, you know, I thought, how nice is this that I can be just completely me
That's
around these
good.
people? You know, and whereas like in some other cases, I've sort of spoken about my love of mermaids, I've spoken, and people are like, oh, and they always give each other like a look, and I'm like, oh, what what does this look mean? Have I said too much? Should I just shut up
Yeah.
now? You know?
Yeah. Big overshare. I'll just skip by and just talk about something else.
Yeah, exactly that. So I sometimes think it's like about finding your people,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. And no, absolutely. Because when you do, you feel the mask starts to come off, you know, and it
Mm,
starts to become a lot easier. Because I think there's an innate feeling that there is going to be acceptance there. You know, we don't know each other, right? But I'm sitting here, I'm forgetting words and things like that, and I'm rambling on, but I'm okay because I
yeah,
automatically think you're accepting. You might be bored out of your head, but you're accepting it. You're doing it, whatever. But it's you're not going to switch off. You know.
yeah.
So
No, it's true. It's true. And I wouldn't sort of say, oh, can you stop talking about that, please? You know, when you're talking about, say, interests, I don't know whether you've ever experienced this, but I know I have. I'll be talking about my interest, and they're like, "Oh, you've been speaking about this a lot." Yeah, I know, because it's great. It's the
it's,
best thing in the world. That's why I've been
yeah,
speaking
it's my
about it.
interest. So
Yeah, it's my interest, and you should
yeah,
love it as much as I
absolutely.
do.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So with all this, I know we've talked about obviously the past and everything and what you do, and obviously
Yes.
you're very positive. If you come across very positive about everything, a burnout coach. Why? Who would have a burnout coach, and why have a burnout coach? What can you do?
So my job is to help people, you know, overcome burnout and find sort of strategies that work for them. It's so difficult out in the world when, you know, there's neurotypical burnout versus neurodivergent burnout, and our burnout is so different when it comes to like cause, you know, getting ourselves better, um, and even the symptoms that we have. You know, burnout for a neurotypical might be that they've overdone it at work, they've got some stress going on, they're moving house. You know, it can be sort of big events that, you know, everyone goes through, and work is probably a big contributor
It's
to
quite
neurotypical
obvious
burnout.
for people to see it and understand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas like neurodivergent burnout is, you know, it's caused so much easier because we're constantly having to mask in a world to fit in and not sort of be told off all the time, because that is a fear of mine. I don't
Mm.
like being told off. And, you know, so we're masking, we're having to put ourselves into situations that we feel uncomfortable
Yeah.
with. You know, going to new places is the most stressful thing for someone like myself. I have to research everything, you know, because I get so overwhelmed. I've lost friendships because of, you know, not being able to do
Yeah.
certain things because I didn't know how to tell them that my body doesn't want me to go. Um, you know, and you don't want to continuously sort of say, oh, you know, I'm not feeling well today. But it gets so bad that it does make you feel unwell because you're stressing so much about things that people take for granted. You know, I was on the way to work yesterday and I thought, oh no, if I had a bad feeling, just a natural thought. I was like, oh no, if this train stops at this station, I'll have to get off and go to another train. I'm going to freeze and I'm not going to know what to do with my day. Whereas other people just automatically get off that train and go to the other one and be fine. That would
Yeah.
exhaust me for days because it was unexpected. Another thing with burnout and the reason someone might get someone is to help sort of have some accountability. You know, sometimes you know how we get distracted. We're always putting everyone else's needs above our own. So my job is to, you know, make sure that my clients know that they matter. Their needs are just as important as anyone else's, if not more important. Because I kind of see it as if you can't put yourself first and can't look after yourself, how are you supposed to look after anyone else at the end of the day? You're not going to have the energy. And eventually you're going to let everyone down. And that's kind of the whole point that we kind of get stuck in a cycle of, I don't want to let someone down. But if you're letting yourself down, you're going to end up letting
Yeah.
other people down in the long run. So that's kind of what I help people with. So a lot of it's to do with like, first of all, mindset, second of all, routine, looking at, you know, what are you doing? What could you be doing? Especially for people that, you know, are ADHD, they have the pull and push of both needing routine and they're not needing it. So, you know, giving yourself the options, you know, PDA, so pathological demand avoidance, something that I really struggle with, you know, thinking about any time that you say, oh, I'm going to do this, or you give yourself a demand, or you have an appointment to go to, you freeze and you then can't do it. So thinking about how can I do something if it is a demand? And, you know, I sort of am there to give people the options and also help them follow through rather than sort of not take
Okay.
action. Because I think we sometimes get a habit being neurodivergent of not taking action because we do get so overwhelmed. And taking action means change. So I'm there to be like a cheerleader, like, come on, you can do it. You know, not in a sort of unrealistic way. If someone says, I really can't, I'm not, okay, what else can we do then? You know, what do you want to do? Because, you know, everyone's different and everyone needs a different
That's right.
approach. So that's what I'm there for. And it's
Well,
exciting.
good for you. So, what made you become a coach?
So I've always loved
Yeah.
personal development. It's been something that I've loved for years. I've always been obsessed with Paul McKenna, probably like since really young. I don't know why. And obviously we've got the Tony Robbins of the world as well. Jay Shetty is one of my favorites. He's got a very sort of like spiritual kind of calming approach,
Okay.
which is really nice to his sort of personal development. And a lot of like what I see in the personal development world is very tailored to like the neurotypical. So I kind of wanted to do coaching, but do it for people like me, people that think in the same way as me, and you know, tailor it that way. Because I think one thing that we all struggle with is seeing the bigger picture. So I'm there to sort of help everyone sort of create their bigger picture from the bottom up, because we have bottom up thinking. So that's another part of what I do. I do it because I love it, passionate about. I think I'm a natural sort of. I love helping people. If I could save the world and I could like make harmony everywhere, I would. It's not realistic, but gosh, I would.
Can there be chocolate in this harmonic world? harmonic world,
Plenty of
harmonial world
chocolate.
even. Good. That's fine then. Go for it then, I say. It's yeah, like you say, it's for someone to understand being autistic or ADHD. Really, they need to be autistic or have ADHD. It's
Yeah, you don't know
yeah.
what you don't know. You can't. It's when you hear about people sort of saying, I'm really depressed and I'm really down, and people sort of turn around and they're like, oh, could be worse. Worst thing you could say to someone, first of all. But unless you're actually in that situation and, sure you've experienced depressive sort of episodes. I've experienced majority of neurodivergents are gonna have experienced it because life is hard for us. There is no light at the end of the tunnel when you're in that mindset. It's really difficult. You can't see it. So no matter what anyone tells you, you're not just going to be like, oh yeah, I feel so much better now. Because a lot of it's
Yeah,
inner work. It's stuff that you have to work on. And I think, I always say you can't help people that don't want to be helped or aren't ready to be helped, because a lot of the time it's like a natural journey. People get to a point they're like, they either get to a point where like, I really need to get my shit together, or they'll get to a point where it's like, I can't go on if I continue like this. And sometimes I might be like, you know what, I'm ready for a change. I want to do it. You can't force people out of the dark hole, the dark tunnel, unless they want to.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's something I think we all need to think about. When we all speak to people or ask for help, we've got to make sure that we actually really want the help. Um, it's also good to look around to see what sort of person you need to see. Um,
Yeah,
Not everyone is suitable, just like anything else, really. Just because if you go to one therapist or coach or whatever, you don't get on with them doesn't mean you shouldn't go to anyone else. I've it's all about as well. Well, for me, I should say, I went to a therapist um, before I was diagnosed because I didn't know what was going on, and she was not specialized in any neurodiversity at all. But for me, I was able to talk. You fallen.
yeah, yeah. I did fall. Yeah,
But I was able to talk, and at that time, that's what I needed. You know, I don't see it now because my life has changed around so much. I don't feel depressed now. I'm on medication, ADHD medication. I do not feel depressed at all. I speak. I do the podcast, and that's my therapy. Talking to
yeah.
people in the same boat, so to speak. That's my therapy. Listening to other people, all that helps me so much. Having this conversation with you is amazing. Um,
I
it's
love it.
good. It's like I said, I'm still learning. I'm still learning and how I view ADHD, how I view myself, terminologies. How I think because I a lot of things I need black and white. So if I'm in the if something I feel needs to be black and white, don't talk to me in grey because it makes no sense. But there are
Mm,
things that have to be in grey,
yeah,
so please don't speak black and white. And you know,
yeah. Walking paradox, I tell you.
so I'm still finding myself and everything, and I think everyone else is on their journey. And I think having some sort of therapy, coaching, friendship, some bonds, some outlet in some way, everyone needs to find what they need, what works for them.
Absolutely. I mean, although I'm a coach, I have therapy. I also have a coach. You know, I have therapy because for me, I only have it once a month now, and it's just my way of processing my month. I don't, beforehand I was having it weekly, and it was like processing my week, but I need a way to process my month. I do a lot of writing, but sometimes I find that sort of speaking it through with someone that will challenge me a little bit can help. Especially if I'm not a lot of it's to do with like not understanding. Um, oh, this happened, but I'm not quite sure. I don't understand. So they'll question
Yeah.
and help me process it. So I have that once a month, and coaching as well, because it's just so important um, for me to be able to stay in a positive mindset. Your support system is one of the most important parts of actually getting on in the neurodivergent world. Without your support system, it's really, really tough. You know, having someone that can either understand. So I've got my support system of my friends that are like me. You know, some of my friends, they're terrible at replying back. Oh my goodness. Do I care? No, I really don't care. I'll see them, I'm like, you're terrible at replying back. And they're like, I know. I'm like, yeah, it's just the way we are. And they'll say to me, "You message way too much." I'm like, "I know, isn't it great?" and they know that, and it's we all laugh about it because we just know we're like it. And with my therapist, the therapist I work with, she does work with neurodivergence, so that was really helpful in how she questions and how she challenges some of my thoughts. And the coaching that's to help me with my business side because, you know, I'm not an expert in business. I I need the mindset of a business person, something that I've never experienced before. It's all new to me, and I wouldn't be able to do that on my own. I think a lot of us feel like we have to do things on our own. We should be able to do things on our own. We can't. You need support in a lot of areas if you want to be, you know, happy. I did hear someone sort of say, can neurodivergent people ever actually be happy? And I was in a bad mindset when I heard this, and I was like, no, probably not. And I was fooling myself because you can
Absolutely.
be happy. Um, you know, I find happiness in the smallest of things. The smell of my cat sounds so bizarre, but I love like the scent of like cats and cuddles and things like that. And I'll be sitting there and I'm like, this is actually bliss. If I could sit and be like this for years, just sitting here cuddling my cat, I would. So it's sometimes finding happiness in the smallest of things, but the more you do, the happier you get with everything else in the long run. It's like a
Yeah.
domino effect.
I completely agree. I think it's a shame that some people haven't found what makes them happy yet, because be it the situation they're in, be it financially or the support system around them, or age or whatever it is. And that's a shame because I think there's something for everyone out there. It doesn't have to be big; it can be very small. Like you say, your cat. The smell of your cat. Yeah, a little bit weird, but that's you know, yeah.
Weird but
But
wonderful.
that's you can't take that away from someone. That's what makes you happy and smile. That's amazing. You know.
People's purpose is what I kind of call it. People need to have a purpose. And there are so many people in the world, this is neurodivergent and neurotypicals, that are just walking around not knowing what their purpose is. But for people like us that are neurodivergent, that have a lot more difficulties, our purpose is like our
Mm.
anchor to keeping sane. And I can't, I before went through life, not really knowing what my purpose was. I always knew that I wanted to help people, um, but I always had the horrible thoughts of, no, you can't do that. How are you ever gonna? You're never well. Who's gonna look up to you when you're always unwell? Blah de blah. And I kind of thought I need to get my shit together, really. And that's when I thought, right, let's find out what's going on. Get myself into therapy. Do all of this. See if my medication needs a change up. Do loads of different things. And now I found my purpose, and my purpose, I feel like I was put on the earth to help people, to inspire people, to give joy in people's lives, um, maybe to be a bit of a nuisance in people's lives, to boost them to do things. But ultimately, I'm here for a
I was
good
just about to
reason.
I was just
And I
about to
think other
say, and
people,
you do that really well. After you said about helping people, but then you quickly said sometimes you're a nuisance, and I thought a No, I can't say that now because she might think she's a nuisance.
Oh. But being a nuisance, what is life if you've not got balance? So I'm going to be annoying. I'm going to be like good some days. I'm positive today. Tomorrow I might be negative. And when I'm in that negative mindset, I live it. I will just let it be. I don't try and escape it anymore. I used to try and distract myself. And I actually found that kept me in more of a negative mindset because I was just trying to walk away from it, ignoring it, and it was just building up even more. So now if I'm feeling negative, I'm like, Ugh, let's just feel it. And I'll go and put on the saddest music, have a big cry. And I listen to music on repeat as well. So I will listen to the saddest song on repeat, crying again and again. Because you got to get out your system. And I think the world has sort of got to this place where you can't have any emotions in the world. You're too happy, you're too excitable, you're too sad, you're too depressed, you're too angry. You can't be human, can you?
Yeah, you've got to find that way to just be you, whatever you is. You've got to find that way. Yeah, there are times you have to. There are times you have to mask. Um, everyone,
Mm,
everyone, be it because you're in a interview for a job, or you're in the queue at Tesco's waiting for shopping, and it's doing your head in, but you can't shout out. But you know what I mean. It's there are certain times everyone has to mask and keep it together and keep it in and hide what they really feel. But the difference is, those say neurotypical people, that's the only time they kind of like mask. Whereas we have been masking all the time, and just finding those times and those places and a bigger percentage of your life and your day where you can actually just be you. And if nothing
mm.
else, it's just going to help your brain to relax. It's just going to help you not be so mentally fatigued that you can do things better and cope better and get to,
It's true. It's true. Have you ever found yourself masking when you're on your own?
at times. Yes, depending what I'm doing. Yeah. um
Yeah, I have as well. I sometimes sounds wild, but I used to sometimes get like a feeling of you're being watched, you've got a camera on you. And I know full well there is no camera on. When I first moved into this house, I thought they used to have cameras in this house, which they did. They did have cameras, because they used to sort of make sure that their little boy was okay. And I was like, what if they've left a camera somewhere hidden and they're watching me? So I was like, right, let's not be weird. Let's let's be human. And I was exhausting myself out through masking in my own
oh
home.
gosh.
I have sort of had OCD in the past, like OCD tendencies and like the constant badgering of faults. Um, and I was like, there's cameras in your house, getting paranoid for no reason. Um, yeah, all these silly things. Yeah, our minds are crazy things sometimes.
Yeah, I used to find that when I sometimes when I mask, like if I'm going to do the school pickup soon. um I could have a bad day and I'm walking to school, or in the car, and I'm just down. But as soon as I get to the school gates, although there's no one else there, my son finishes a bit earlier, so there's no one else there, the game face comes on. Okay, just in case I speak to anyone. Um, but in those moments when I'm masking, I feel better about myself, as in because it's somehow picking
Mm,
me up. Um, I can't keep that going because masking is so tiring. But it's only for a few
mm,
minutes. I go in and say hi, they go again, and come out again, and it's back down. You know, um,
yeah,
but in those little minutes, I kind of find I feel better about myself because I don't know, because I am smiling, I guess, although it's put on.
yeah.
Because it's not nice feeling not nice. Um, but at the same time, it is not nice to keep masking. It doesn't
It's
make sense in
true.
my head.
It's true. I know what you mean. I think masking is just, it does make you feel good sometimes. It's like you're doing like a
Yes,
performance, I guess.
yes.
Um,
Oh, well said. Yeah.
I I used to, I think with my masking, I used to try and be more serious because people used to sort of say that I was maybe a bit too much. I get a bit excitable, especially when it's about things that I really love. And like, as you can tell, I'm quite a positive, bubbly person, and I'll be like, oh, oh, kind of thing, you know. If I see something, I'm like, oh, oh, this is really exciting. Um, or I suppose the masking, I kind of got myself to a point where I wouldn't react. I'd just be like, oh, and I wouldn't know how to react. Um, and that was exhausting, I guess, because I was constantly overthinking, okay, now I look rude, but now I don't know what to do because if I do show my excitement, I'm going to be a bit too much. The only times that I don't really get nervous in, no, I do get nervous. That is a blatant lie. I get
The
nervous with
truth.
like,
The truth.
I get, I know I need to tell the truth. And that's another thing. If I like lie or something, I will blabber out the truth within like a few seconds. So I get nervous about sort of like social things, although I find socializing a little bit like I feel great about it after, like, oh my God, I socialized, woo, yay. Um, I feel nervous about it, but tell me to go on a stage and maybe do some public speaking and I'll be absolutely fine. I don't get nervous around that kind of thing. Or heights. I'm not really nervous around heights. In fact, I love them. I find it very like, oh, this is nice. Um, you know, and someone sort of said about like the deep water. I would love to go into the deep water and sort of like swim with like sharks and things like that. First of all, sharks are fascinating. Um, they're beautiful creatures. And I love octopus as well. I'd love to see octopus. Um, so, you know, all that kind of stuff doesn't really scare me. But then I might be scared to like call my doctor for an appointment. It doesn't make sense. Like, you know, and if someone calls me unexpectedly, it's not an appointment. I get really anxious, like, oh
Yes.
my God, who is calling me? Whereas, like, if I know that it's going to be a call, you know, I wasn't nervous about speaking with you today. I've spoken with you before, so I felt a bit like, oh, quite looking forward to this. But if it was like an unexpected call, I'd be like, help, 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 you know. What do I say? What scripts do I
Yeah.
use?
It is strange how that happens. It is very strange how that happens. I did a live stream, not mine, someone else's, the other week, and I forgot all about it. I was making dinner, had a message saying, "Oh, on in 5 minutes." I'm like, and I was stressed through the whole thing. I ended up stopping cooking and I sort of joined in. But because in my head in that moment it wasn't planned, because I'd forgotten all about it, it was put on the spot, you know, and I just wasn't. My head was just wasn't there. And it was really, really hard
Yeah.
because I couldn't build myself up for it and get myself mentally prepared. You know, so yeah, that was quite difficult. So yeah,
One thing that I've come to love about sort of being neurodivergent and being in the neurodivergent community is that we're also understanding. Oh, well, not all of us. There are some that aren't. Don't get me wrong. We do have some that aren't. But, you know, the most part, everyone's like, oh no, I get it. Like I understand. Like just
yeah,
completely get it, which is really nice. Um, you know, and sometimes I'll be outside, sort of like wherever I am. I don't know. I don't really go out much, but if I am out and I see someone sort of stimming or something, I'm like, oh, they're like me.
yes,
Like,
yeah,
you know, even though, you know, neurotypicals can stim too, and, you know, people do it with stress and everything, sometimes it's like a radar and they don't even have to be stimming. I'm like, you're part of the team. I know it. Obviously, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that. And I was on the train yesterday, and I have, I'm a 27-year-old woman, and I love the Little Mermaid. So I have this colourful, sparkly Little Mermaid bag, and it brings me so much joy. And I take it to work. That is my work bag. It's got my work laptop in it. It's got everything in it. And I know I shouldn't have looked, but I did because I'm nosy, and I have no shame in that. But there was a lady next to me that had messaged a friend of hers about my bag, sort of being like, "What the hell is that?" Da, 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 sort of like judging it. And I was just like, oh. At first I was a bit angry because I thought, that is rude. And second of all, I was like, oh, isn't it a shame that like she can't share my joy?
That is so true. Yes, she was rude, but yes, why? Yeah, why do we have to criticize anybody else's joy?
Well, I saw a lady like sort of with like wearing like all these bizarre colors that I'd think, oh my God, like what are you doing? Like there's so many colors. And then I thought, oh my gosh, like that must be so nice to just feel like a big rainbow like during the day. So like sort of seeing things in that way, I probably wouldn't wear loads of colors. If I was to wear a color, I would be head to toe in purple. That is the goal eventually, but I just don't want to be buying any more clothes. I'm very picky. But yeah, clothes are a difficult topic.
Oh, I hate shopping for clothes. I hate it with a passion. T-shirts is fine because that's easy to do, but trousers, I'm a weird shape, so finding trousers, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. My wife's got like 400 pairs of jeans. I got like one, and it's just that's it. Fine until they're worn out. 10 years down the line, then I'll go get another one or something. But yeah, well,
I had a favorite pair of jeans, and my mum shrunk them in the washing machine, and I've not felt the same since.
oh
My
bless
heart
you.
broke. It was she only did the washing because our washing machine had broke. So I couldn't even moan because she was doing me a favor. But I was heartbroken. I was like, that was my only pair of jeans.
Did you finally replace them though?
So yeah. I have. They're not as good, but they'll do the trick, I guess.
Oh, Shah, it's been brilliant having you on. And like I said, I wish you all the best. I think this has been lovely having you on. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm like thinking, rather than thinking, oh, I need to go and pick up my son, I'm thinking, oh yes, it's recorded. Brilliant. So yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we won't go into that. All right. Thank you everybody for listening, for watching. Please remember, be good, be kind, and you're not alone. Thank you.
Bye.